Hey, hey. Okay, we are we're almost done. uh, and let's see here. We've got we've got tonight, and we've got the final exam. This will be the last two meetings of the course, and then we're done. So next Wednesday, it's just stuff is due, but there won't be any class. I also don't think I'll be having office hours. So my yeah. Let me know if you need office hours on next Wednesday. Um, but usually the Android stuff, most people can get squared away. Sort of like getting off the ground is fine. They're good. So anyway, but let me know. Um, so tonight is kind of the bonus night. I didn't have anything planned. My former student Ben Lutz will be stopping by at 8 o'clock. He actually has another class during this time, so he's going to duck out of that early so that he can present the results of his independent study. It's super cool. Um, it's something that's actually very related to the course. I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly where he landed with it. But otherwise, let's do some prime minister's questions to talk about the course, and then I created this mural which I've linked to on the Slack um, for some lean coffee, for some Ask Me Anything, for the uh, for tonight. Actually, I was looking at the topics that you've already posed. There's some good stuff, but if there's anything you want me to talk about, put it up here. We'll do some voting to figure out what we all talk about, what's most important, what's most interesting to the class, and we'll go from there. We'll see how it works. I haven't done this before, and so then, but I figured why not? We got some time, and we're all here. But to start out with prime minister's questions. So for stuff for the course, what can I tell you? Any questions about Project 6? Anything about the final exam that you'd like me to answer? Um, I don't even think you need to watch all lectures. There's a lot of material. So I recommend that you, uh, honestly, it's block off 90 minutes, as many as 2 hours, but probably too much more like this weekend to thumb through the lecture notes, sort of just remind yourself of the topics, some of the earlier stuff, maybe some stuff that you haven't used. Sorry, if you want to have a conversation, you need to have my glass. There you are. Um, I know, right? But so yeah, dust off the PDFs, skim through them. Remind yourself about some of the earlier things like the Java util classes and Java IO and the concepts behind refactoring and everything like that. Remember, you will have access to all the PDFs, so there's something specific that you need. Probably the best way to study is to sort of just remember where in the lecture notes it might be or what keywords to search for in the PDFs. Really, because it's not about memorization. It's about being able to find answers to your questions rapidly. Yeah, so we'll be. Please, yes, everybody. Yeah, and actually, sorry, I guess I need to make that abundantly clear. Please come to the classroom for the final exam because, well, I want everybody here. So just there's no question about whether or not you were accessing things that you weren't accessing. So I'll be walking around looking at your laptops and stuff. And then also we have the group portion of the final exam, which is a discussion that I'd like to be in person. So yes, please come in. 6 o'clock, right? Yep, regular class meeting time. So not the scheduled one, but the regular class meeting time. Because let's start at start early and end early. Yes, yeah. Anything covered on the quizzes, anything covered in the lectures. So really anything that's there on the syllabus. I think all of it is stuff that you probably used in your projects. I can't remember though. So, but it's or sorry, between your projects and the in-class activities, mobbing, and all that kind of stuff. It's all fine. Oh, questions came in. Where is the link to the questions? Are both exams combined worth 12%? Um, sorry. Where's the link to the questions? Oh, I mean the link copy board. That is, it's in Slack. It's in the Joy of Coding channel. Yeah, Dylan, let me know if you haven't found it yet. And then are both exams combined worth 12%? Yes. It's 8% of the individual, 8% of the final grade is the individual, and then 4% is the group. Is the details for the final that you talked about last class in the class YouTube playlist? It ought to be. It's also linked right here on Monday's class on the. Yeah, actually, let me see if I'm almost certain I put this into the playlist. Hope I did. I intended to. Yeah, it looks like it's there in winter 2025. It's the last one. Yep. So yep. Oh, that's good. Oh, good. I'm not wearing the same shirt that I did on Monday. I worry about such things. Okay. Yeah, sure. Am I wearing the same shirt? And don't look. You don't get to look. Hey, yeah, excellent, awesome. And again, to create a post-it, just double-click to create a sticky, and then you can type in whatever, and then just drag it over here to the to discuss section, um, and that's what we'll use to vote on. Anything else for Prime Minister's questions? Anything else you'd like to know? Is everyone taking this course as usual? What do you mean? Feedback. Sorry, are you talking about sort of like the class interaction, the quality of the projects? What is happening? Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's an excellent question. So yeah, I mean, it's like, how is this course going? I think the course overall is going well. There's some differences this time. This is the first time I've taught the 11-week course with 2 meetings a week. Yeah, it's always been 1 meeting a week, and so it was a 3 or 4 hour, actually, well, it was like a 3.5 hour lecture, or a 3.5 hour class time. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, 3.5 hour class time in the 11-week section, 11-week version. Um, and there's some differences. Like, so for instance, like this dead day, honestly, I've never had this before, because probably what we've done during the last week is the stuff that we spread out from like Monday and like last Wednesday, or whenever that was when we did the other Android thing. So the Android, I think I usually create it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I think in years past, I would have spent like one 3.5 hour lecture downloading Android and installing Android Studio and all that kind of stuff, which is like watching paint dry because it's so slow for me. And then setting up the project. That would have been like one week's content, and the next week would have been all that coding that we did. So I sort of adjusted it that way. Now, in terms of all y'all's and how you did, well, I mean, we don't have the final grades yet. Um, I I don't know. I don't think I have much of an opinion on how things differed. Again, I got to admit, I was thinking, it's like, well, I've got data like, hey, how many times did students resubmit, and like what were their grades like? But then the graders are different every term, and so I don't think comparing grades across terms really is that much. We can look at how the letter grades are distributed, maybe. But I think overall, I'm seeing what I usually see. Hey, yep, there are some people, and I like to think it's the people that sort of like keep up with the material. Yep, that do well, and then there's other people. Oh yeah, they're doing okay. And sort of we'll get you'll all cross they'll all cross the finish line. And then I've got some a cohort of people that for various reasons just got behind and haven't been able to catch up. And so then so I don't think that's not terribly unusual, sort of, the way it is. And then but overall, I think I think I've seen. I think in the 11-week course, we do 3 pairing and 3 mobbing activities. In the 8-week course it's taught in the summer, I only get 2 in. And I think having that third one helps. I see the quality of the mobbing. By then, people are so much more comfortable with it. And so, like, when you get that third opportunity, that's where they you really get to dive in. When it's only 2, you just don't have the same sort of depth there. Yeah, good question. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't record the project grades in Canvas. Sorry, yeah. So, look for the emails, I guess, to figure out what your project grades are. And if anybody wants, actually, what I can do, that's what I can do next week during the final exam. I can give everybody, actually, I don't know. I feel like I just sent out the midterm grade. So I don't know if you think it'll be interesting, if it would be valuable for me to like send you the summary of your grades to make sure that like everything got recorded correctly. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, okay, I'll do that next Monday. Great, that'll give me something to do during the final exam. Also, if you want to submit your Android project before class on Monday, I'll try my best to grade it, or not grade it. I'll do my best to like make sure it works in my environment on the final exam. It's rare for it not to work, but I always worry about it. It's like, oh boy, if someone submits right before the deadline, and guess what? I can't build it on my machine for whatever reason, and I can't get it working. It just puts the student at risk. So if you want sort of an early validation of like, okay, yep, everything's cool, everything will build in my environment, submit it to me on Wednesday, and I'll do that during the final exam, and I'll send out some grade report to everybody just to make sure I got everything. After I'll grade all the POAs and things like that too. Yeah. No, please don't be concerned if you haven't gotten your Project 5 grade yet. I've been, I elbowed gently, virtually elbowed, an elbow, elbow. Anyway, um, the graders, because it's like, hey folks, I like to have stuff graded over the weekend, and here it's Wednesday already. But no, but if there was something like fundamentally problematic about your submission, I've already reached out to you. I've had a number of people who have resubmitted and stuff. Just ends like, well, I couldn't parse the date, or oh, hey, don't work. So yeah, so if you haven't heard back, it means that your project submission is a candidate for grading. And one of the graders said that they would grade half, their half tonight, and then I don't know exactly when the other graders might get to them, but. I'll tell them it's like, hey, and then next week you get the final exams. So we'll get everything back to you though. Awesome. Let's turn it over to Mural. So yeah, let's see what else stuff up. So yeah, let's do an Ask Me Anything. So like I said, I posted the link to this mural board, and I want to do something called Lean Coffee. So this is a discussion facilitation technique that I'm a big fan of, in which you do the following, in which we all together, the people having the discussion, source the topics that you want to discuss, and then you'll have a chance to vote on the topics that are most relevant and interesting to you. And then we have a series of time box discussions to talk about what you want to talk about. And then at the end of every time box, everybody gets to vote about whether they want to continue the topic, whether they're done with the topic and want to move on, or whether they'll just go with what everybody else says. And that's fine, either one of those. And then we'll vote on that, and then we'll move on to our next topic. And this is a nice way to make sure that we get to discuss the things that you want to discuss. So it looks like people have already populated things. That's super awesome. Um, let's give people this another moment or two. I'll look for indications of more people adding topics, and then we'll vote. So I'm not seeing any more topics being added to the board, and that's fine. So I'm going to start a round of voting. Let's see, oops. Come on, move. Picture there. Actually, you don't need to see me. Okay. All right, great. So now I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to start a round of voting. Start voting session. We'll just say topics for tonight. Let's see here, who can end voting? It's me. And let's give everybody 4 votes. And let's see here. To vote on just sticky notes, you need to vote on icons and stuff. And where to vote, you can vote the selected section. I think this will work okay. And then let's see here, we'll go next. And we'll start voting. There you go. And we'll begin. So you vote to you click on one of the cards to vote for it. You shift click to remove your vote, and yet your vote will be anonymous. So let's see here. Are people able to vote? Excellent. Nice. You guys seen Mural before? Sorry, you're voting. Okay, I think that might be everybody. It's like Max decided to abstain from voting, which is fine. It's a protest vote. Okay, we'll end the voting session. We'll see what we did. There's still people voting. Well, too bad. Okay, what have we got? Uh, let's see here. 10 votes for any job. Actually, wait, I can just do this. Let's see here. Now I can move things. So let's just sort of like put things in order. Let's see here. 2. So we want job search advice. Nice. I got 10 votes. Fit for students, leaving academia, thoughts on the job market. And then we'll do whatever this one was, and then we'll talk to the lower voting ones. We'll see how this goes. Okay. Excellent. Any job search interview advice? Okay, let's start a timer. Let's put 5 minutes on the timer. So what is it going to sound like? There you go. We got fun stuff. What's a cello sound like? Yeah, I like the airplane better. Okay, awesome. Okay, job search interview advice. Those are like two very different topics. So I'll start with job search advice. So um, the searching for a job now is very different than it was 5 or 6 years ago because there are a lot of jobs. So let me share first of all sort of like my theory of how the job market works with regards to businesses. So um, there is this ebb and flow to the job market, to our industry. And I've been around now for long enough that I saw sort of as a kid growing up, I grew up in New England. I don't know if any of you have heard of Digital Equipment Corporation. It was like the #2 computer company in the world behind IBM in the late 70s and early 80s. And they were huge. They were, I grew up in New Hampshire. They were at one point the largest private employer in the state, kind of like Intel is here. And actually, it might have been, I don't know if they're the biggest private employer in Massachusetts, but they were very big in Massachusetts. Um, and I saw that company like sort of rise and be famous, and then within a matter of years, it poof went away and got acquired. So I sort of saw it early on where it's like, oh, look, companies don't last forever, except for IBM. But companies, computer companies don't last forever. There's this cycle to them, and I then saw I saw the .com boom and bust, and then I saw sort of the recession that in the aftermath of 9/11, everything like that. And then I guess I've also been as working age, I saw the recession and the financial crisis of 2007 2008. But that's the last time this has happened. And one of the things that I've realized is that if you are under 30, you've never experienced what we're going through right now. And so then it's always very scary the first time, especially when the timing of your life and your career is such that you're looking to get a job right now. So I mean, I tell you that to say like what you're experiencing, what you're seeing, it really isn't that unusual. Sure, you can say, oh yeah, maybe in some respects it's really bad, or maybe in some respects it's not so bad, but it's happened before, and the reality is that we've always gotten through it, and sure, this might be the time where everything really turns to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, but I really don't think it's going to happen. So um, just acknowledge that it's difficult to get a job now. And the reason it's difficult to get a job now is because companies aren't hiring. Companies aren't hiring because over the last, whatever it's been since 2010, the last 15 years, it's crazy. We've never gone this long, or at least not in my lifetime, gone this long without a noteworthy recession. Yeah, there was one technically during the pandemic, but everything was a mess then and didn't really affect our industry. As a matter of fact, our industry was great during the pandemic because there was all this free money, right? Money was really cheap and no one was spending their money. And so then, money got put into the economy, and our industry made bets. We said, I've got an idea for something, and then we went off and tried that idea. And as long as money was cheap, people were like, yeah, just go try more stuff. Here's more money. We're not doing anything else with it, right? Go invent some things. And so lots of people got jobs. And this has happened before. And this is kind of the dot-com, although we tell a different story about that. But something very similar has happened in terms of in real things. So anyway, companies make bets, and then they some of those bets pay off, and then a lot of the bets, most of the bets don't. And when your bet doesn't pay off, when you invest in build something and not enough people buy it, the economics just don't work out anymore. You can't sustain yourself. And this isn't right or wrong. It's okay. We tried something that didn't work out. And so then, you don't hire people, and then you lay people off, and then, companies, get acquired, companies go out of business, this kind of stuff. So, okay, how do you find a job in this market? It's tough. And, everybody talked about it. At my conference in Seattle, there were a lot of people that were, trying to understand, hey, where do I fit in? How do I find a place to, feed and clothe and shelter myself? These are serious issues. And so then, a couple of things that I would recommend. Oh, I'll leave you there with a cliffhanger. We got what? Oh, we got 18 seconds. So persistence is, is the word of the day. You just got to keep at it. And it hurts. And it's so uncertain. It's probably the most uncertainty you've ever faced in your life and your career, and depending on your upbringing and everything like that. Okay, so here's what I want to do now. I'm going to pause my spiel. I'm going to ask, hey, do we want to continue with this topic? So we're going to do another voting session here. Start voting session, and we'll just say keep going. And let's see here. Sticky notes selected. Oh, that's not right. Oh, did I not select it? No, I selected it. Come on. Start voting session, selected session, sticky notes, and oh, sorry, you just need one. Huh, what happens here? Oh, there you go. Are you able to, there you go, begin voting. Oh, you're not, sorry, we're not voting on the right things. That's weird. It's a little bug to me. One. Maybe? Here's what I'm just going to do. I'm going to open, let's try this voting session on anything and just click on those three. So the entire canvas. Okay, yeah, please vote on, oh, guys. Okay. Oh, meh, I didn't do that right. Once more with feeling, sorry. Well, I think enough, okay, on this one, enough people said yes. So, great, let's just give it another 5 minutes. Okay, so, so you gotta keep at it, and you gotta find jobs that make sense for you, right? You gotta, you want to apply for a job that you can do, but then also one that is compelling enough. And so then, right now, it's like figuring out what companies are out there and are hiring. Now it's a little different now because people can work almost anywhere. Although, I mean, I think there was a question about return to office on here, so that puts some, that they may put some constraints on where you're going. So you got to find a job, and then you got to figure out how to get noticed at that job. This is where it helps to build a network. Now, I mean, your network of people are probably the people that you know who are students. Maybe you know some alumni or some now alumni. And remember, like when you talk to someone, when you're talking to someone and ask them, hey, can you help me find a gig? What you're really asking them for is like, can you leverage your network to find a gig, right? And so that's where it helps to have a good diversity of a network, so that you have people that work for different companies that are different points in their career. Um, and at this stage of the game, sure, there's like your peers and stuff, but also, hey, call up a family friend, or hey, if you know someone who had an internship in a company, and see if you can talk to their boss. So seriously, stuff like that. Um, and so then it's ways like that where you have to. And this is how you have to distinguish yourself from other people in terms of locating opportunities, is by reaching out to people through your network. And so then that's let's see here. So and then searching for a job. So like right now, so like here again, we're having this conversation 6 years ago. It'd be more like, yeah, go find the jobs and the companies that really appeal to you and think that you'd be a good fit for. And by the way, it's never super easy to get a job right out of college, but it's as difficult, hopefully, as it gets right now. So sorry. Now, the job search is something that you have, finding the job right now is something that you have very little control over. However, preparing for applying for a job and then interviewing for a job is something that you have a lot of control over. And so then this is where the time and effort that you put in can have the most impact. So my advice for the application, the interview is as follows. Whether it's your resume or what you say at the interview, the purpose of an interview is to tell your story, tell your stories. And so then the one way to tell your story is through your resume, and there's lots of good advice out there. And actually, let's see here, manager tools. So like one of my favorite things in the entire world is Manager Tools. This is a resource that I use like in my job like every week. I go on long walks around my neighborhood, and I listen to Manager Tools. And oops, let's make it a little bigger, I guess. Oh, there's squares. Let's see here. How do I make a link? Yeah. These guys know their stuff. So most of their content is actually aimed at managers, which never too early to start learning about it. But they also have career tools, and this is aimed for professionals. So then, oops, maybe it's under podcasts. It's probably a better way. Let's see here. Listening on all podcasters or project. Oh, I guess career tools is like this. Nice. Okay, sorry, I'll just do this here. I'll just look at all. I'll just do a Google search. Career tools. Yeah, here's a career tools podcast. This is great about like navigating your career, professionalism. Maybe we'll talk more about that too. But there's also I don't know what they have here. It's available for free, but they have lots of like really good advice on your job search, and everything from I like the podcasts and stuff, and they have stuff for like hey, finding jobs in a downturn and all kind of stuff like that. They've got good advice because it is practical, it is actionable, and it's really sort of like boots on the ground stuff, which whether you're just starting your career or well into your career like I am, it's the stuff that we need. So there's been another 5 minutes. So let's see if I can figure out how to voting. Let's see here. Show results. Delete voting session. I want to do, let's do session 2. Delete that. Great. Let's try this again. I will start a voting session, and I want to see selected items, get 1 vote. No, it's still not doing the, it's so weird, I don't know why. Okay, continue, I'll see the entire canvas. Wait a second, I think I did that right. I think it reset, oops, I think it reset the, oh. It's voting, okay. Are people able to vote now? Okay, yeah, but y'all got 4 votes, I don't understand. Damn it. Okay, well, whatever. Let's do, we should probably just do a show of hands instead. There are enough of you here and stuff. So let's cut it off here if you don't want to keep talking. Okay, yeah, looks like we got a couple more on this. So anyway, I'll start, I'll just give it another 3 minutes.
4 of those 7.
That's okay. So interview. So basically, you want to be able to tell your story, and there's a very almost cheesy acronym that I use for telling stories, which is it's called sharing. It's called share your story. And so then the S is for situation. So when you're telling a story, you want to give a little bit of, and it's what you do during interviews, right? You say, oh yeah, here's something about me. Here's here's an interesting anecdote about me that demonstrates the kind of worker I am. Because I'm an interviewing manager, right? This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who can tell us about what they do. So as a situation, so it's like, hey, here's what was going on, right? Hey, I was working on a project with a bunch of other students for this class. The H in share is the hindrance. Oops, hindrance. Oh, it's too big. Any good story, like any movie or any novel or whatever, there's conflict. There's a challenge that needs to be overcome. And when I'm hiring people, I want to hire people that have shown evidence that they can overcome challenges. That's what I do. It's why we need people. Anything that is easy to solve, we've got machines for that. What I need is people who can think, people who can understand a problem and work with others to get it done. So the hindrance is super important. Actually, I'm going to put this left to right. A is for action, right? And so it's like, hey, I was doing this thing, I had this problem, and here's the action that I took. This is really important to me, right? Because I want to know, okay, well, what did the person do about it, right? Did they sit there and think about it? Did they try to pawn it off on someone else? Did it, were they involved in it? And this is where you can give an idea of what it is that the kind of work that you do. R is for result, right? Now, at the end of the day, I want to know what happened. And if you're telling a compelling story, the interviewer will be on the edge of their seat saying, oh, okay, what happened next? Now, the result doesn't have to be like the expected result, right? It's like, hey, we had this problem, hey, wow, we couldn't get, the database to, our software connects to the database, and we tried all sorts of, sort of different things. And maybe the result was like, darn it, we couldn't get to work with Oracle, and so we went to SQL Server instead, okay? It's not so much about having a happy ending to the story, because the ending is the E, and the E is the education. This is like what you learned there. And so then this I want to see not I want to see like the whole story, because the learning says, oh yeah, how will I approach a similar problem next time? And so then articulating each part of these stories will make for a very compelling interview. And what I encourage you to do is, go through and to prepare for the interview, come up with like 3 to 5 of these stories that you tell. Now you're not looking to write a script to put on a performance or whatever, but sort of have them there, in the back of your mind, so that you can, so when the interviewer asks you about, hey, tell me about a time where you had to work with other people to overcome a challenge, you've got a couple of things to choose from. I'm going to try this voting thing one more time. Delete voting results for continue. I'm going to start a voting session. Oh, actually, yeah, start a voting session on the entire canvas. Everybody gets 1 vote. Please click on the, do we want to do next? Try this.
Okay, good. Everybody's got one note. We'll give just folks a moment or two to indicate. Okay. Okay, so other than move on, we only got two more people. Um, yeah. Oh, well, two people voted for other topics. That's fine too. Okay. Well, that worked a little better that time. Excellent. So I think we're done with this one. Oops. Let's see if we can show. Actually, we know the results. Okay. So we were discussing this one. Now it was discussed. Let's start a new topic. Tips for students moving from coding in an academic environment to industry. Oh, that's great. Let's start off with 5 minutes on this one. Okay, so then one of my goals for this course is to try to give you an idea of what it's like in the real world. And what it's like in the real world is the following. Um, the assignments are way more vague, right? What you're trying to do is produce something that solves a problem for someone who is completely unknown to you, and that's your user. Yeah, maybe you have a chance to meet with them, or hey, maybe you're in an environment where where you are an IT organization for someone who is in the next office over or the next building over on your campus, wherever you can go do that. But most of the time, you'll be making as best educated guesses as you can about what it is that you produce. The day to day, though. Is about working with others to either implement your code or working with others to understand how you can be successful in your role. And I think, and this is the thing where you don't get this very much in any school, right? Yeah, I mean, there's some, there are some colleges that, try to provide a lot of teamwork, but you're only working with your peers that are somewhere within 3 years of the same amount of experience as you. In the real world, you might be working with people that have less experience than you. Might be but more people that have decades more experience. And so one of the things that I learned early on is that as the new person, which I was right a long time ago, I was a new person. And something that I noticed is that I didn't want to ever ask the same question twice. Because everybody was completely, it's like they knew. It was like you hire someone new, you hire someone new out of college, you know a bunch of stuff they don't know. And that's fine, which means that you get to ask a question, a question on a particular topic exactly once. And they'll be like, yeah, no problem, they'll tell you the answer and they'll work through it. After that, they should expect you to know it. So one of the things that you need to figure out to do is like, how do I persist things? How do I learn? And then engage enough of a conversation to then understand the topic being discussed, and then remember it for next time. So some of the things you can do is like, as you're asking someone about that, sort of do like a check yourself with them. It's like, oh, okay, thanks for explaining that to me. Here's how I understand it. Did I understand it correctly? And so that will establish you as someone who can learn quickly, someone who can ask insightful questions, and then people will be happy to work with you because that's like a really great sign in someone early in their career. And then also one of the reasons why I like test-driven development is that you find the bugs yourself while you're writing the test. And so people don't find bugs. They don't find. You want to find the bugs. You don't want other people to find the bugs. And so then in terms of the quality of your code, make sure to test it. And then, ask, depending on the environment you're in, ask for peer review on your code. It's the best way to learn, and it's also the best way for you to show off what you can do. It's not wrong to want to manage your reputation inside your inside your team, inside the environment in which you work. Actually, it's very prudent of you to do so. We still work with people, and people have biases and can be influenced, and you want to make sure that you're on the right side of those biases so you have the right amount of influence. And that really then speaks to how you communicate. Something that I didn't understand explicitly, although Vandertools talks about it a lot, so I wish I had had that a little bit earlier in my career, is how to communicate effectively so that you can influence the outcomes that you want. Sometimes the outcome is just like, hey, can you help me with something? And sometimes the outcome, the influence, you want to influence outcomes like, aha, I have a point of view that I want to advocate for. I think the decision should be made this way. Well, how can you convey your perspective on something effectively in a way that will resonate with the audience? You need to know who you're communicating. Because communication ultimately is what the listener does. Yeah, sure, you can put that information out there, but what really matters is how that information is received. Because in basically every communication, like the communication I'm giving to you right now, I'm telling you things so that you will, do something about it. Do something with it. Oh, we only got a couple seconds left. Oops. So now let's see. Oh, no, this is taking a long time. I don't like it that much. And then vote for. Oh wait, it didn't. Let's remember what I told you to remember. Okay, and then do we need to name the session? No. Okay, people aren't voting. I will take that as a cue that we probably want to move on. Yeah, we want to move on. Okay, that's good. Cool. Okay. Let's see here. More on the job market. Now, I've spoken to this a bit. So, is there a particular topic that people would like to dive into more on the job market? A particular aspect of it? I'll put like 2 minutes on the clock and we can see if you want more after that. Ah, honing skills. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so the question, I'll repeat back the question so make sure I understood it and so that people who are remote can hear it. Right, yeah, so like what are the skills I should develop like while I'm looking for a job? Or like what are the things that I need to do now to prepare for the job search and also prepare for success once I land that first job? So the skills that you need to to navigate your job search um, are about organization and communication. So the job search, especially in this market, is a project that you have to manage, right? This is work. And you have to go out there and like do the research, right? No one's going to do it for you, and I don't know, you can afford to hire a headhunter, but sorry, you're not going to get, you're going to be working in a sweatshop if you do that, right? It's yeah. So you got to do the research, and actually this can be part of what you demonstrate is like part of the interview or whatever, right? And so be deliberate about what you do, and also use as a place to organize your project management, your communication skills. So you have to figure out what you're doing, and so again, I think Manager Tools has some good podcasts on that, and there are also other books. Actually, yeah, another resource that I really like. What is that called? Managing Your Job Search. Is that it's Johanna Rothman's book. Yeah, I know. I can change it up too if you want. And let me just get rid of it. I don't know. I'm not super happy for. I know, right? Can you imagine there was a time people used to smoke on planes? That sounds awful. Doesn't surprise me somehow. Yeah. While we're voting, I'm going to look for, let's see here, Johanna Rothman job search. Job search. Yeah. I love Johanna. Yeah, it's so awesome. Again, just like really great advice. And oops, I can't add. I can't add anything. I recommend that book too in terms of. Oh, yeah, people have read it. Yeah, I highly recommend that book too in terms of just like learning how to manage this project. So yeah, she wrote that. That was back before the last recession. The book is a little bit older now, but it's still, it's timeless advice. Great stuff. Uh, no, we're voting on whether we want to continue this one. No, we're not going to vote on new topics ever again. Okay. Okay, and it looks like people are ready to move on, so that's cool. Let me just yeah, put that one up here too, and then add a link to that. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Cool. Let's see here. Something else. Okay, what have been your favorite, least favorite industry fads? Is it better to try to ride the wave or focus on your fundamentals? Oh, good question. This is great stuff, guys. Industry fads. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to them. What have I seen for fads? Well, um, there was like it's all the frameworks and the languages and stuff. So like when I first started my career, it was like, learn this framework, learn this tool, and you'll get a job, which I all did. Okay, actually, no, here's my story about that. I graduated from college in 1998. And in 1998, we all believed that as long as we knew HTML, we were all going to get jobs and be millionaires. Uh-huh. No, seriously. That's what 1998 was like. Like, oh, HTML was like the hot thing. If you knew HTML, you had a job, no problem. 2001, everybody was out of a job, right? Yeah, it was bad. So, and so it's like, well, I know I need to know HTML, but that's not where I'm going to get my job at. Same thing with like, gosh, there was this like fad in like, I don't know, the late, aughts about like, oh, there are all these new languages. Everybody's doing. I'm going to learn Ruby. I'm going to learn this. Yeah, and so right, yeah, it's not that. So and so then I haven't managed my career like that. Now I do know some people that just get really excited about like, oh, I'm learning AI now, or hey, I'm learning Docker now, and you can do that. I have to admit, I mean, I've been with the same company for like 17 years, and I started out at my first job. I was there for 5 years, and I had like a year and a half at a gig that just wasn't right fit for me. And I joined Tripwire, and I've been able to grow with the company. That's, I guess, unusual. That's a way, but it's not what everybody does. Lots of people, especially in the last 10 years, have changed jobs every couple of years. And in order to do that, yeah, you'll have to learn some new skills. And especially people who want to learn new skills. We're like, oh, I get really excited about this one thing. I'm not doing that here at my company. I'll go find another company that does. That's fine, but remember, sort of the law of hiring is first in, first out. And so, like, this is why so many people who have like changed jobs in the last 2 years don't have those jobs anymore because you're not established there. The reality is that once you're inside a company, you can take advantage of the inertia, for lack of a better word, by demonstrating your value. And this is, and so then, when it comes, to the choice to who to lay off, which I've had to make, right? One of the things you look at is, well, how are people performing? And someone who has 18 months of performance history or 6 months of performance history, you just can't compare that to someone who has been successful in all of the roles they've had over the last 10, over the last 12. So now, granted, the story's a little different for new college hires. My own personal experience with that is that the job that I started in 2000 when I moved out to Portland, I was I was there in 2000. I was there for like 9 months, maybe a year, before the .com was crashing. We weren't a .com company, but we were in software, and everything was falling apart. And so people weren't buying our software, so they weren't buying everybody else's software. And so there were layoffs, and we had 60 people in the R&D department at that time, and came in. We had like all hands were all sitting there in I guess it was the big room by the loading dock or whatever, and the VP of engineering gets up there and puts up a slide with 12 people's names on that, and she said, "Your name's not up here. The boxes are right there. I'm sorry." That's that, but this is how it works, right? Yeah. But hey, come on, there's no nice way to have a layoff, and that was just as valid as anything else. And trust me, that was kind. I've seen worse. So, but my name was on the list. And why was my name on the list? Well, I was young and cheap, and I guess I made a good enough impression. I was also working on something that that the company was still was still going to do because they canceled some other projects and stuff. But it's like that was like a really important lesson about how how you can influence your worth, the value that they provide the organization, even if you're still new. And so then, this is where I sort of look back on it. It's like, yep, I think I don't know exactly. You never know exactly why you're kept or why you're let go. It's actually not really relevant. But like some of the things I did, I just happened to like stay late on the right night, and like my boss, who had probably spent the entire day like figuring out who we were going to lay off, he kind of walks by me and my buddy, two young guys without families to go back to, kind of looks at our cube, kind of sighs, kind of shakes his head and walks on. And I bet he was like, okay, those guys, yeah, they're probably worth keeping on the list. So stories like that. Sorry, let's do thumbs voting here, and I don't know if you're remote. I'm tired of like trying to do this silly voting thing. It's not really working for me. So like if you want to continue, just give like if you're on Zoom, just give like a thumbs up. And then people here in the classroom, so thumbs up, continue on this topic about these industry fads. Oh, actually, I haven't really talked about better to ride the wave or whatever. Thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. I got 1, 2 thumbs up there. Yeah, down, ready to move on. Yeah, let's just do 2 more minutes then. Because I really haven't talked about fundamentals or ride the wave. Although you can probably tell I'm more of a fundamentals type person. But that being said, I've had to learn a lot. Now, what I haven't really had to learn a lot is another program. I've already written Java, but I learned actually fairly early on in my career the value of leadership for the team and for the individual. So in that first job, and so okay, life happens, right? So I'm like 27, and I got married yet, like 26. My now wife moves out here, and she's like, "Cut your hair." I cut my hair. I show up to work the next day, and people are like, "Oh, you look like a manager." I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm not a, but wait, what does this mean? And it's like, well, wait a second. A lesson I've learned through my entire life. I learned this like when I was a freshman in high school. I was one of those kids, and maybe the men in the room, gosh, probably everybody in the room can, relate to this, where it's like, I like had all my height by the time I was in 8th grade, right? I was a early bloomer. I started high school. I had like a bit of a mustache, and looking back on it, but I didn't look like a freshman. No one treated me like a freshman. This was like such like an important life lesson for me, where it's like, well, sometimes when you don't, when you either do look like you're in a role, or you don't look like you're in the role that people expect you to be, they'll treat you that way. It's just human nature. And so this is, there have been times where I've been able to, leverage that human nature to my advantage. And so then this is why behavior is so important. This is why, and by behavior, I mean like how you express yourself. Behavior is what other people see you doing. So it's not how you feel. It's not what you think. It's not what is internal to your head. It's not what you intend to do. It's what you actually do. And so then, that all speaks to. Sorry, I'm way off topic here. Oh yeah, focus on the fundamentals. So there are some fundamental things that I think you should do. But let's take another vote. Are we done with this one? Want to keep going on? Okay, another 2 minutes. The fundamentals, the things that, in hindsight, the things I wish I learned earlier in my career, and the things that have served me well once I learned them, are the behaviors. It's not the technology. It's not the frameworks. It's how you interact with other people. It's the things that people see you doing. And so, again, like my story about, hey, there were certain things that I did that kept me from getting laid off in my first job. There are things that I did that because I was curious about leadership, because I act like a leader. And how do you act like a leader? You ask good questions, you listen, you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, right? Follow through. Um, these are the little things that you do. If you do those little things every day, they compound, right? It's like compound interest, which either work for you or work against you, right? When you are, saving for retirement or you've got money in the bank in your savings account, the compound interest works for you, and you get more and more money over time, really by not doing anything. Or actually, you get more and more money over time by doing what you're already doing because you're already doing it. Your credit card, on the other hand, works the other way, right? Once you get into credit card debt, it's harder and harder to get out because the compound interest works against you all the time. So when you think about your career and what you manage, whether they're technical skills, but especially behavioral skills, the sort of earlier on you establish these things, you'll build up muscles, and over time it just amplifies itself, becomes a positive feedback loop, and you have more and more opportunities to grow, and you'll see the opportunities where others won't, and this is what can help you get ahead of the curve. It's like you're running a relay race, and you're starting to look at people in front. The people in front of you aren't the people that are ahead of you in the race. They're the people that you will lap if you can catch up to them. And now here again, yes, it's a competitive, it's a competitive attitude, but each, there are finite resources, and it's about managing your life and your career, because otherwise either someone else will or no one will. Okay, more or less. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not smiling. I know this is it's heavy, isn't it? Yeah, and it's probably like having a conversation with your parents. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I know this is Q&A. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. What? No. 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 People haven't changed. Sorry. People are people. And I think what we are maybe seeing now is that we're just in a different part of the generational cycle. Meaning this. Um, I'm a pretty firm believer in demographics are destiny. And if you look over like the long arc, um, for basically my entire life, um, the demographics the demographics are like the people that get paid attention to. I'm of an age and a generation that no one's paying attention to. It's always been this way, right? So those of us born, in between, Gen Xers, right? So when you look at people like now that are in middle age, well, yeah, we had a moment in 1995 when MTV paid attention to us for a little while, and we all wore plaid shirts, and no one really knew what to do with us. We were kind of depressed because the economy sucked and everything like that. But then we were quickly forgotten because everybody was paying attention to people that were 30 years, not 30 years, 20 years older than us. It's those baby boomers, right? And they've been people pay attention for them forever, and they pay attention to their kids, yay! And I really liked the millennials because there were a lot of them, and they would work for cheap, and so I had someone take care of my kids. Thanks, it was great, right? And fine, their parents are still dominating, politics and everything. Fine. Other than the fact that no one pays attention to my generation's opioid epidemic, but everything else can sort of navigate okay. So it's who are people paying attention to now? Well, the young shiny people who we all have hope for the future, which is good. But no, the fundamentals haven't changed because I think when you really talk about the experience of young people, it's the same thing that when I was 20, right? It's yes, there were opportunities and there were a whole bunch of challenges too. It's more about, I've always found what to be true is that people at different stages of life experience similar things. So yeah, there is the challenge of getting that first job, of starting out. There's the challenge of, okay, I've got a job, I need to get established. What the hell? Houses are so expensive. Or it's I can't find childcare. Or, hey, it's really tough to navigate the adult world. Yeah, it's always been that way. And then now that I'm in middle age, I kind of get the the idea of oh wait, my children are at least independent. They feed themselves now and stuff. Or pay them to feed themselves, and everything, right? They're not babies anymore. And then, but I'm also getting older, and my parents are, well, my mom is getting older and stuff, right? But it's all these cliches, but this is just life, and this is what happens to you at certain stages of life. So, but I, I, I think we're seeing, because there's a question about RTO, and let's be honest about what appears to be valued in society in terms of leaders, right? Who do we choose to lead? How do we respond to how they lead? Um, I don't think the fundamentals have changed, for better or for worse. And you know, yep, maybe in another 20 years, when you're in my position, you'll do something different. But then again, I think what I've learned is that there's a reason that that businesses are run the way they are. It's not all bad. It's the situation and it's the scenario that we're in. Um, and while we can all imagine how things could be better, the practical reality is that we haven't figured out how to get there yet in a way that's fair enough and sustainable. Yeah. Yeah. You know, well, I don't think it's necessarily harder if you are a non-traditional student, if you're like over 30 entering in, because people that are a little bit more mature have a lot of advantages. Um, honestly, you've lived some more of life. People who are older might have work experience and have learned the lessons where someone who is 22 and has just been a student their entire life and hasn't had to navigate the professional world or even see the professional world, that can be challenging, right? You do learn quite a bit just from the school of life. So that being said, people that are older have more attached to more stuff, right? Like my students, it was when I first started teaching, the majority of actually almost all my students were older than I was, right? Portland State is not like your 18 to 22-year-old college. What do I like about it? I like teaching people who like are adults and like are more responsible, and I've gotten to appreciate where many of my students are just in terms of their lives, right? And so like yeah, if you're 30 and get out of, and graduating with a degree, you might also have other burdens that a 22-year-old wouldn't, like families and mortgages, and you know what it means to pay a rent, and you probably don't have your parents supporting you anymore, and or if you're you're 35 and still living with your parents, a completely different dynamic. Parents are older, and maybe there are kids and and spouses involved and some of that. Then yeah, hey, you're in the graduate, you're sitting there in your pool having your friends' parents tell you about plastics. Reference? Dustin Hoffman, no, super old movie. Yeah, it's Robinson. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, movie The Graduate. Yeah, way before my time. Cool. So, yep, it's just different challenges, but also different opportunities. And again, the story that you can tell, when this is so, I used to be part of PSEP, and it was always so fascinating to hear the stories that people would tell in their interviews there about like, hey, here are the challenges I've overcome, and the students who are like, yeah, I got my, I got my, degree in art history or chemistry or whatever, at age 22, and here's how it didn't work out, and here's what I did about it. It's like, aha, that person knows how to overcome adversity. That person knows how to, now they know where they didn't know at age 22 how to like, overcome a challenge. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's see what we got for other topics. And we got our 15 minutes. This is super fun. Actually, did we need a break before? Well, actually, we'll take a break when Ben shows up. We'll probably need a couple of minutes to get everything set up. Show results page. Well, I want to show. Oh, wait, do we still have the other one? I hope. Oh, maybe we deleted the other one. Okay, well, oopsie. Oh, I gotta hide the results. Nope, maybe we lost him. Okay, well, whatever. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's how you do this one. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. Of the three, oh, there's another four. Okay. How to avoid getting replaced by AI? What about offshore? Oh boy. Um, do what computer and people that live on the other side of the world can't, I guess. And so, what's that? Um, get to know the people in your time zone. Um, show that you have good critical thinking skills. Um, you know, every time there has been an advancement like AI or more automation, um, yes, in our industry, yeah, there are roles that have gone away. We don't need punch card operators anymore. You know, oh boy, those Fortran compilers are going to put all of those assembly writers out of work. Yeah, guess what? They learned how to write Fortran. Or guess what? They found another job with another company and then they retired fine, right? So I don't worry about additional tools in our profession because what we do is we make tools, right? The whole reason we have the field of computing is to remove toil from the lives of humans, is to find the things that are difficult, that are repeatable, that ought to be automated. And every time we've done this, it's led to more computing jobs, not less. Now, yes, there are dips, like right now, right? There are those cycles, but right, you track the curve over time, it is up and to the right. And they said Moore's law was going to run out. Computers keep getting faster. People keep using technology for more. Um, I still think you're in the right field. Granted, of course, I've also got dollars in college for computer science. I got to believe this. I got a lot of money for it. But it's like I tell her, there are going to be two kinds of jobs in the future. The robots are either going to be telling you what to do, or you tell the robots what to do. Which job do you want? You want the job where you tell the robots what to do, and that's what we do, right? So I, uh, I think it's about accepting or understanding the power of AI and leveraging it. And then outsourcing, you know, this is another fad that I think will come and go. Right now, actually, I think we're kind of in people aren't liking outsourcing as much because we've realized that yeah, while it might be cheap, it's really not effective, right? So then, yeah, there's always there will be the tendency to believe the hype of the people trying to sell you outsourcing. It's like, oh, great, it'll be so cheap. Oh, they're so smart in this part of the world and everything like that. Okay, and so you try it. It's just a reality. And it's not just necessarily outsourcing too. It's more like there are companies, even smaller companies, that are worldwide now. We can do this. When I started in the profession, that wasn't feasible. It was like, okay, there were people on the other side of the world, and you had literally a phone call with them on like one of those desktop horrible speaker things, and this is how you communicated with them. It's not that way anymore. And so then I think the reality of coming into the profession is that yeah, you will be working with people all over the world. You got to figure out how to deal with time zones. Time zones suck because hey, right now it's 8 o'clock at night right now because we changed the clocks. That means it is now 8:30 in the morning in India, right? And so then there is literally no time during the day because we're 12 and a half or 13 and a half hours off from each other where we're both at work at the same time, and yet we need to work together. Well, what does this mean and how do we make it happen? And so then this is like one of the primary challenges of what it means to work in a worldwide environment. Ben! Hey! Awesome. Good timing. Okay. Let's come on. Let's take a break. Let's take
Oh, let's take 9 minutes. Let's start back up at 8 o'clock. We'll get Ben all set up, and then I can't wait to hear what he has to say. It's probably way more exciting what I've been yapping about for the last hour.
Back or whatever. Hey everybody, this is Benjamin Lutz, the one, the only. You took, let's see, you took the class. Was it just over the summer? What you know? You TA'd over the summer.
I graded over the summer,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I took it last winter.
Okay, good deal. Yes, we saw 11 week like these folks. And Ben reached out to me before the start of the term. He's like, "Hey, I'd like to do an independent study or a special project." I'm like, "Oh, yes, a special project." Uh, and I had remembered that I had had this idea a while back for a project I sort of never got to. I'm like, "Oh, what's something good for Ben?" And he took it and ran with it. So as sort of a condition of the special project. I said, yeah, go ahead and do the project. I'd be happy to support you on that. But I want you to tell us all about it. And I've got a captive audience. And so then let's turn it over to you, Ben, to talk about things.
Sure. So I'm Benjamin Lutz. Some of you know me. I'm a master's student here at Portland State. And yeah, so I'm doing the CS 506 special project. This is essentially just an independent study that's faculty advised. And David was kind enough to advise me for this project. So yeah, that's just my little report out, and I'm just gonna go over what was the problem that we were facing, what was my strategy for solving it, and then I'll jump into a live demo of kind of how far I got into solving that. Okay, so I'll start with the problem statement. As some of you may have realized, it can be really difficult to get the correct standard out and standard error for the kind of the initial command line projects in the Joy of Coding course. And maybe this can be traced back to, it's just kind of hard to, if it's your first time doing it, it's kind of hard to imagine like what the output should look like. So it'd be really nice to have a reference implementation of the projects where students can verify their output without seeing the actual source code. So my goal was to develop kind of a reference implementation for the initial command line projects, and this should allow students to validate their results. So I'll jump into what was my strategy for accomplishing this. Created a cloud-based web service that allows students to invoke this reference implementation. So the reference implementation was in Java. It's basically like it's what you'd be familiar with from doing your homeworks in this course. But it's going to be exposed via API, and it's going to be containerized with Docker and deployed to Cloud Run. I also had to make sure that it's only accessible to students in this course. So I had to implement access control mechanism. And then I had to make sure that the source code is not exposed. Some of the tools I used, obviously Java, Maven, the Jakarta Servlet, and Jetty. A lot of you are probably familiar with these tools since they're also used in the course. I used IntelliJ. Docker Hub was a new one that I had to use for, I mean, I haven't used it outside of a class, so that was fun. And then Cloud Code is it integrates nicely with IntelliJ, and it allows developers to manage their Google Cloud builds and code really easily. Here's a diagram showing what my project structure looks like. So it's a multi-module Maven project with the parent managing the common dependencies. Each of these submodules, project 1, 2, and 3, contain the 3 different reference implementations for the command line projects. And you'll notice that in your course projects, you probably work with the same project and update it for the initial command line stuff, but this requires 3 separate projects to be pushed to those 3 modules. And then there's this API module, which has the servlet that handles the HTTP requests and gets the output from the correct project by passing in the parameters. And this is basically just saying what I just said. Yeah, so a new reference implementation would need to be pushed to the service every term. Now just to go over the deployment process, it's important to build and package build and package with Maven to create the necessary .war file. And then Docker Hub can use that as it's going to create the base image with Jetty. It's going to copy the WAR file in, and then it'll start Jetty. And then that Docker image can be deployed to Cloud Run using my tool in IntelliJ. And then once it's deployed, the application can be accessed. For authentication, I used OAuth 2.0 and the IAM page in the Google Cloud Console. So David is able to grant students the Cloud Run Invoker role, which will give them access to the service. Students would have to generate an authentication token for their PDX Gmail accounts, though, in order to access it. Here's an example of what that might look like. This gets the authentication token. gcloud is Google Cloud's command line tool. And then this is an example of how you might curl the service. So we have the authentication token, we have the project number, and then the parameters that you pass in. And this probably looks pretty familiar to how you might execute a jar file for one of your initial command line projects. So now for the progress, I'll do a little source code walkthrough and then a demo of the application. So I'm gonna go to my IntelliJ here. And yeah, okay. Here's the reference service. We have the projects, as I mentioned before, 1, 2, and 3. I only wrote the reference implementation for the first project just for testing it. The other projects would go here in 2 and 3. But this is basically the source code that you all would have written for this course. Up here, we have the API. And the important part here is the servlet, which is going to route the HTTP requests and get the output from the correct project with the required parameters. So here's my switch structure. And notice this is using the invoke main test case framework and passing in those arguments. And although projects 2 and 3 are not implemented, I still created a placeholder. So something's still returned for testing purposes. And what is this? Okay, so now I'll walk through deploying the service locally. I can use Cloud Code tools. You can see we have Cloud Run, and this is the deployed service. But I'm going to go up here, run locally, and I can do edit configurations. And you can see I've specified the builder to be Docker, and we have our API Docker file. And I can hit run. And this is going to deploy the service locally. Forgot to walk through this here. This is specifying Jetty as the base image, copying the WAR file. I've already run the Maven package command, so it's already there. And then exposing on port 8080, and then starting the Jetty server. So the service is available here. And then this is not going to be really available to students, but it's what I used for debugging and just playing around with it. You can specify the project number. you can put the parameters in here, and then we can see what the expected output might be. So there's that. And that captures standard out. It should also capture standard error. So maybe I put no arguments in. And oh, missing command line arguments. So now I'll run through my deployment. To deploy the service to Cloud Run, we'd go deploy and edit configurations. And so I named the service reference service. It's going to run on some machine here. Require authentication is important for the access control. I had to enable artifact registry via the Google Cloud Console. And then we've got Docker and specify the Docker file again. And I'm not going to click run because the service is already deployed. So I'll just go straight to the Google Cloud Console and show you that. So here's the running reference service. If I click on it, we can see that this is the URL that you'd be able to access it at. Unauthenticated invocations are not allowed, so you would need to access this via curl with the authentication token or via application code, which I'll show you later. To enable a student to use the reference service, David would have to select the service, click permissions, can add a principal, and then we can give it the Cloud Run Invoker role. And then here you would put all the students' email addresses. So maybe mine. And you can just add all of them in one go and hit save, and everybody should have access to the service, but not the application code. So now I'll just do a quick demo of how we could curl the service. Oops. Here's how you'd get the authentication token. That's using the Google Cloud command line tool. Store it in an environment variable. And then we can curl the service with, well, we pass the authentication token, specify the project, and then pass the parameters in like that. And we can curl. And there it is. We got the output there. And then we could also try that, just see does standard error work as well. And missing command line arguments, yes. So now I'm just gonna show you how one might access this via application code. So this is just a sample getting a starter repo. I think this is what you all have to fork at the beginning of the term. And it's really not production ready at all, but I just wanted to play around with this. We've got the reference service client. Here's the Cloud Run URL. And it's all just kind of inside of a main function here, but parsing the arguments, it's going to take the project number and then parse the rest of them. This gets the access token, which I'd want to eventually have in a configuration file, but I didn't get to that. And then we can call the reference service. And this can be run via the invoke main test case framework. So if we go to the initial airline project, go to the integration tests, we can see this test invoke reference implementation. You can specify the project number and then the arguments. And just to show you the expected output for that, maybe we could do, so project 2 and arg2. And I didn't implement a reference implementation for that, but this is the output you would get. Project 2 executed with these arguments. So that's what this test is testing. and that should verify access to the service. So I'm going to run it, and it looks like the test passed. So this should be usable to verify output as you're developing. And with that, okay, that was my live demo. Accessing. Future work would be streamlining the client code for using the reference service, getting that config file set up, and just making it really easy for students to use that invoke main test case framework to access it. Also creating a webhook so that when new reference implementations are pushed to the GitHub, then maybe the service could pull them automatically so that they're automatically there without having to redeploy. And then as in its current state, students could probably use the service to submit code that just utilizes the service to get past all the tests. So I'd want to implement some mechanism to prevent that. But yeah, that's my project. It's been a lot of fun, and David's been very helpful with questions along the way. Yeah, I'll open it up if anyone has questions for me. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had some experience with it, but you know, getting it to work with a Java application was new for me. And then you know, just all the cloud code tools were new. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun getting to learn about that. I don't know how to access the YAML file, but I'm sure you could. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to ask about that because there was one step where is there an IntelliJ and see the container is pushed. And again, try to get at the, you know, you need to authenticate or against the container, right? So you have permission to get to the
I think so.
container. So it's not like nothing here gets deployed to a publicly accessible repository.
Yeah, I think maybe artifact registry is where that gets.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, Docker. Permission. Yeah. Okay, select.
Okay, the roles principle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, and like two owners.
Yeah, that'd be you and me.
Yes.
Editor. Couple service accounts there. But yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Sort of your HTML debug tool, why not distribute it like that?
I didn't want to enable the. I'd have to enable like the OAuth screen. I think to get that to work. I just ran out of time. I could.
And that was anti-requirement. So the goal. Well. Yeah, no one make it too easy, and I want students, if students are gonna leverage the reference server, I want them to do so through writing integration tests. Right, so this is really just a forcing function, you can write integration tests, so like what Ben showed there at the end, where you write your, you know, your project IT or whatever, pass in the command line arguments, what, you know, like ultimately what I like it's like, you know, we run your integration tests with like a flag that says, oh yeah, you know, run my integration test against the reference server, and that way, yeah, you'll get your error messages more right, whatever. But it still encourages and still forces the student to write integration tests for their code and explore it that way as opposed to just, you have to type it into the URL, say, oh, so the actual output should be, and just then sort of, do that. Want to be there, yeah. It's super awesome.
Yeah,
That was
Love that.
so much better.
for sure. Yeah.
Great. So then, yeah, I'll be, first of all, I gotta figure out all the Google Cloud stuff, but then I will, look to see, maybe next time I teach, which will be in the summer. Having this available to students to see how it goes. Because, another one of my motivations is that, I'll be honest, take some of my time to go through and look at the reports, and look at oh boy, here's someone who didn't pass, they didn't parse the command line correctly, probably because you didn't know, right? And so then just having a reference service, we'll see if this can help students learn more on their own without having to go through the effort of submitting and then waiting for me to get back to you, only to find out oh, looks like it was busted. So not only does that not feel good, it's not effective because you're sitting there thinking that everything was okay, probably moved on to the next project, only to find out that yes, they didn't work as expected.
Yeah. It looks like you're an owner on this whole project, so you should be
Excellent.
able
Good
to,
deal. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Cool,
I
cool.
got hold of you. Have any questions? Thank you so much.
For sure.
Yeah. Right now it's all free. Here, you want to jump off? Back up.
No, that was me. I have leftover credits from previous class.
Oh. And I don't know, maybe I can get some academic discount or something like that. Or else pay for it, right? I'm sure you could. It's like I make total bank at PSU. Yeah. So.
Be careful, some disgruntled students run up your credits.
Well, right, that's sort of the other thing. But I'll know who it is because everybody's authenticated. Exactly. Yeah. That's part of it also, so that we can have. And yeah, it'll be curious to see how often people actually leverage this, right? Yeah.
Probably force rate limits
I probably could. Yeah. Yeah, and here again, it's I don't know, charge to the department. I don't know. Cool. Great. Any other questions for Ben?
Yeah, this is more less about the project, exactly more about this is like a student running up your project or
Yeah.
like what makes you decide to do this classes?
I just wanted more like coding practice, just building something, and I don't know, just sounded fun, and then David would be a cool advisor. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Ben. And with that, that's everything we got for tonight. Thanks. I hope this was an interesting way to sort of end things for the term. I thank you for giving me, a chance to share some of my stories and the advice that I have. There's a lot of reasons why I want you to be successful in your lives and in your careers, for the continuation of the profession, for the fulfillment of you in your professional and personal endeavors, and I want to make sure the economy is still strong so I can afford to retire. So, yeah, keep those stock prices nice and high. That's what I'll be living off. It sure won't be Social Security. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see everybody here in class on Monday for the final exam.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Best of luck.